This conference will now be recorded.
Town of Cottage Grove Plan Commission will hold a public meeting on Wednesday, July 28th, 2021 at 7 p.m. at the Town Hall at 4058 County Road N. You can also join the meeting by going to meeting. We have a quorum present. The meeting was posted at the Town Hall and on the website. I'll call the meeting to order, and you have two sets of minutes from June 16th and 23rd in your packet.
I'd move approval of the minutes for June 16th.
Motion by Anders. Is there a second? Second by Dave Mule to approve the minutes for June 16th as presented. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. And we have June 23rd.
I'll move approval of those also.
Motion by Anders to approve. Is there a second? Second by Myler to approve the minutes for June 23rd as presented. Any discussion on the minutes? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Abstentions? Motion carried. Next item is public concerns. Public's opportunity to speak to the Plan Commission about any subject that's not a specific agenda item. Anyone online for public? No? All right, we'll move on to Dwayne Swalheim, applicant, Swalheim, 2011 Press, landowner, North Star Road, seeking concept plan approval for a phased commercial development. Good evening.
Hey, buddy. So do you have a concept plan and a preliminary survey map copies?
Yes.
Yeah, I gave you some stuff that's in your packet ahead of that, just as a refresher of what.
Background.
Yeah, West Star area in the past.
In your one, this one,
Yes.
those are green tiles,
Yes,
correct?
the types, yes, yeah.
What happens if one gets broke?
Well, right now
And
they
they're-
tell me they're not working real good because the creek is not real active right now, yeah. Yeah. So hopefully they would probably, in that area, we're gonna have to have a retention pond, and I don't know if they go into retention pond or not. I don't know how that works. I'm not familiar.
For a development this big,
Yeah.
there may be multiple.
Yeah, well, they figure what, at least 3 acres?
In his concept, he
10%?
has that
Yeah.
one big lot maybe for, were you thinking of like this lot for?
Probably, yep,
for-
right, yep, right
for
in there. Yep.
retention?
Yeah, that's where the tiles are, yeah.
Yeah.
You have no intention of pulling them out, correct?
No, I don't, as of now, I don't know. That's the engineering and the people. I have no idea how that works. No idea.
I guess if they stay and they're working, we'll maintain that working
Right.
relationship during any construction or anything afterwards.
It's, right now, whether they're working or not, there is probably some, they are working a little, that's all I'm saying.
Probably so, yeah.
Most
yeah,
likely.
Yeah.
Right, so
Yeah, sure.
is it affecting the lands that are dry right now? Very possibly.
Right now, weather.
Right.
Here, they probably work somewhat, yeah.
So I guess my point is that if you disrupt them, you're gonna change something that may not be seeable right now,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
That's why I would think that's where the retention pond would go right there, because that's where the tiles are working, right in here.
Yeah.
So if the retention pond is in there, I'd take it that to catch the water. I'm not sure how that's gonna work.
Yeah, because from our concept for
Mhm.
the whole thing, we showed that one long one in here somewhere.
And the township owns the north side of North Shore Road.
None of it's been dedicated.
Okay. So it's just,
So when we get a CSM, we'll have dedication.
So my property goes in the middle of that road out there, as far as now, property lines.
Yep,
Oh,
I would. You go to the middle of the road
okay.
from what that preliminary
Mhm.
DSM shows, that dark line being your property line goes to about the middle of the road.
Okay,
And we would want it to be a 66
Yeah,
foot
yeah.
road right away, so.
Yeah.
If and when we get a CSM, we'll want that half dedicated.
right now, that's just considered a field road, I believe, right?
No, it's town road.
Oh,
It
but
is
yet you don't plow it or anything, you don't maintain it.
We don't because nobody,
Yeah, okay, so it is a town road, okay.
when Gene stopped burning garbage
Oh,
back there, we stopped plowing it.
okay, okay,
He was the only reason we plowed it. Nobody else ever had to get back there.
yes, right.
And there are no structures back there
Yeah.
to protect.
Okay, yeah.
so in the long term, it is going to be turned into a town road. So pulling driveways off
Mhm.
is something you could do in that area.
Correct.
Why such small lots?
Well, right now, there's those three small ones,
Yeah.
because we got demand for three small ones right now. Then we got, actually, there's the one right here in the corner, the 1.6.
Yeah.
Has been spoken for.
In the corner?
Yes, that one right down there, yes.
Which one?
Right, this one way down here in the corner, right there.
Oh. Right next to where the retention pond.
Yeah, right in that
probably
area,
is.
yeah.
Well, looking at the soil map, there's an awful lot of hydric soils back
Yes.
there. And, like,
That Scott Taylor, was he the one that did the delineation?
Yep, yes, you did it, yeah. Yeah. You have a copy of that? I think you do, huh? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seems like the DNR takes his word for it.
Yes, so, yeah.
But then you still have to deal with the Army Corps of Engineers.
Okay, yeah.
Maybe necessary for concurrence from them.
What were you gonna put on those two big lots? Is that, we were talking about retention ponds only, or?
there's no way anybody's gonna build anything.
Yeah.
No,
Back
that,
there.
that does not work. That green line I put down there, everything
Yeah.
to the west of it, not to the east. And the reason you build a big lot is because somebody could have their office where it perks and then their yard where it doesn't. That's why you did it that way. Because they may need outside space for stuff.
For storage.
Yes, that's why we do it that way.
How many septic systems do you foresee being in this area?
Well, every lot's gonna have to have their own septic, every one of them, yeah.
Mhm.
Unless they don't need one, it depends on it.
It depends on how it's set up. I
Yes,
mean,
yeah.
that's a lot of stuff.
Like a residential development, basically. You probably won't be using the amount of water you would have in a residential development.
Yeah, I agree. I'm just thinking of so the way that the land is.
Right.
it's-
Well, they have to perk, each
Mhm.
one of them.
It did perk.
Yeah, I mean, each one of them would have to perk, so then,
Did they perk? Did you do any perk?
When Baron Kate Cod Dam came down, I dug all the holes and he looked at all of them. And but he just said they will perk, but he didn't do the official water thing. He just looked at the soils and determined it.
But how do you get something that's 100% hydric or 85% hydric to perk?
Those don't down here.
No, I'm talking about the whole, right where you want to put that lot in the northeast corner.
He doesn't want a sewer system. He's a construction company that just wants to put a shop up and he lives next door. So he doesn't really care if it works or not. He just wants to repair shop and storage for his machinery.
So
So as
now,
long as he doesn't have any facilities.
Well, do we want something like that in that area? I mean, just somebody to throw a warehouse up and, you know,
that's, then we're coming around to what we want to see as a minimum in the development. as a whole.
Right.
I would have liked to seen larger lots myself,
We,
but
just as a preliminary, we don't know, but we're mainly looking for the demand from a realtor. What does he want? He want 1, 2, 3, 4? We don't know. I know the ones are spoken for, a lot of them, they want the ones. But that's just the first couple, 3 people is all. And you have to have all larger lots. Once we get going.
what are they putting in?
Well, one concern is, of course, that doggy daycare that's been trying to get there for I don't know how long. One is a drywaller, would like to get a warehouse. One is a home entertainment company that needs a warehouse. And one is an auto parts store. I don't know if it's retail or wholesale. They didn't say.
It's
It's probably wholesale auto parts.
There's a lot of retail back there. Definitely wholesale.
Question of sanity,
Yeah.
if it's retail.
And most of these people probably need a shed that's 50 by 80 or something. They don't need large buildings.
When I think of this, I think about how Copart came in. If they could buy the land, this is what they were gonna put up. They can through the whole building, whole area. Like, that's, right now, I know, I understand what we're doing. We are piecing it out. But it would be nice to see what the buildings are gonna be like before, or am I too far ahead of it?
We'll see what the buildings look like when they come back for design and review to this board. Because we get to determine what that building's gonna look like. Like when Capital Underground put their first ones in, what we demanded they look like.
Sure. Okay.
And so we would have
They
that
came
for
back afterwards.
any building that goes in here. We'd still have that opportunity to approve the landscaping in the building.
Okay.
Mark, do you have any comments for us?
Thank you. You've talked about a lot of the things already that I had commented on. I think as you know, that east-west segment of North Star Road is a 1-lane gravel driveway right now. So it would, in my opinion, need to be improved to a similar degree as the north-south segment has been improved as part of, this process.
Yep.
Yeah, so that is one comment. I did talk a little, the concept of kind of marginal use of the east side, that is consistent with the conceptual plan that we've developed with the town. And the idea that might be available as a storage yard, makes some sense. It's less visible to the public and anyone who might be offended by it. While the grove of trees, I agree, many of them are marginal. They do provide a degree of buffering and screening for that area. So if the cul-de-sac is punched through as proposed, and there is development on, those lots that are labeled 2.4, 1.3, 1.3, that might be a good opportunity to preserve, the better trees to keep that buffered.
Cut out the box elder, leave the oak and cherry if there are any.
Yeah, right.
No, I mean, but there could be, I have no objection to leaving the woods, not at all.
Yeah, even if it's, even if the species are not the greatest in the world, if they provide a buffering concept, that might help save cost and not having to fence or plant more trees.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think those are the main comments. I think you probably saw my comments in an email in your packet, so I'll kind of leave it at that at this point. Oh, one final thought, the sizes of the lots, I understand both sides of this, and It's true that you could see a user take 2 lots. It's also true that a user would say, well, I want 1.5 lots. And then you just have another certified survey map that would create the size of lots that the users actually wanted. So
This thing, I could have a big lot and somebody will come and divide it.
that's another option.
Yes.
Yeah, there could, it's conceivable. Yeah, so there's 2 lines of thinking. One of them is you just leave the lots large and then you subdivide them later. And the other one is you subdivide them early and then just anticipate you're gonna have to reconfigure them a little bit. It's not like a residential subdivision where, once you approve a subdivision, the lots never change.
Right.
The concern that I have, I just don't want to have all these little tiny buildings, that look like little hotels on a monopoly board. After we paved the road, Capital Underground came in, with their moderate development there. I kind of have high hopes for this area, that I don't want it to become like Advanced Drive on the east side of Madison, where it's all these little tin buildings where they're parceled out that, okay, we got 500 square feet here, that this little business has and this and that. I'd rather see something like on Femrite, just east of the driveway that goes into, I don't know, what does Omita call themselves these days? But anyway, you know what I'm talking about. Omita, that kind of development there, where you've got a fairly large building, that number one is aesthetically pleasing, but yet number two, it's got what I would call somewhat substantial square footage inside for a business to locate. And that's kind of like my vision, for that area down there. And, like, again, the thought of just a little shed back in a corner without any facilities in it and stuff like that. A guy just wants to store something, I don't want to see anything like that there. It's.
The trouble with the big buildings like here in Grove, there's no restaurants. I'm not gonna be able to build a building and have a bunch of employees. They have no place to go noon, like up here.
They don't have any place over there either on Femrite. They got to go all the way into.
Well, it's true too. They got to drive a little ways into.
But when you think of Capital Underground, they come in there, grab their materials, their equipment, they leave, they come back.
Mhm.
Maybe have an office space or probably.
They don't currently.
Yeah,
Currently, yeah, but
it's in the works.
Yeah, so they're gonna have an office space there. But what they're doing is they're taking larger chunks.
Yeah.
Not little itty bitty things.
Yeah.
And from the stuff I've seen in the past, Walsh Road, great example. Small little things, which is gonna be on the next coming one.
Mhm.
You can either, there I've seen people have a business there, or I've seen them just store a vehicle or have a little shop for themselves, and another person had a little workout area for themselves.
Yeah.
It's not what I would expect that to look like or want it to look like.
Yeah. But then I have to build, if there's a big lot, I got to go to market it. Something's got to be a demand for a big lot out there. I don't know if it's going to be that. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
Maybe
that's
that's something you
why
should-
you can do the CSM to
Yeah.
make it the size that somebody really
Yeah.
wants.
Maybe, well, that's what you should do is see what's out there, what's
Yeah.
needed.
But the realtor I got right now, he's got calls for these size lots that I can sell. But he doesn't, but we haven't really marketed it
Right.
yet either.
So as a concept layout, is it acceptable? You have problems with, concerns?
My only concern is just the lot size and the fact that every lot or every building should have a septic system. There shouldn't be anything that doesn't have a septic.
Yeah.
And then how do you address the north side of North Star?
I've already got the bid to put that in, that road for myself.
Okay.
Unless you want to put it in.
Negative.
I'll pass.
We got you to where you need to be, okay?
I'll pass.
Well,
Yeah, never hurts to ask.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah. So is the consensus of the plan commission that the concept is going in the right direction with what comments we added?
Is it something to change later on down the line if we?
Yeah, nothing is cast in stone.
Nothing's cast
We haven't
in
even started,
stone.
except those first three, we haven't even started the rest of it.
Yeah.
Until we get an engineering firm in there, find out, we have to put water retention and everything, so.
Yeah.
Are you guys okay with the idea of his proposal to just do a CSM for those 3 lots first and then do the rest later? Or would you rather see it all as one subdivision?
Well, wouldn't it be better to do it all as one
The main
subdivision?
thing is just to get some
Would
cash
they-
in hand.
I would.
Those roads are expensive and
Yeah.
it's a lot of cash.
It's
That's what
not
we
a
did.
residential deal. You don't know who's gonna be interested. It's just so many ifs.
Right.
You might have somebody come and want the whole thing or not at all.
And this will be true to a degree with the other proposal you'll be seeing, but if we're talking about a shared stormwater facility, which I'm all for, then you'll have to talk about who manages that
Right.
facility going forward, and that would be, need to be part of the discussion. The reason I bring it up right now is I think it's smart to plan for it now and to build it and size it appropriately to handle not just the first 3 lots, but what other
Everything,
things might be
yeah.
anticipated. And then I think it's up to the town plan commission and particularly the board to talk about, well, is this something that we're going to manage as a town? Or are we going to require the collection of these folks to manage? So, I know it's a hard thing for towns to get their arms around, but with, larger scale development comes additional infrastructure responsibilities, whether it's punching that big road through or improving North Star, or potentially, taking on more stormwater facilities, or at least assuring that they're taken care of properly.
I mean, like with Don Vinny's development down here, the homeowners association is taking care of the stormwater basin. Is that something that can be set up for the businesses to take care of also?
Sure. But at the same time, you have to realize that, a doggy daycare, operation is not skilled at taking care of basins. So the likelihood of the town having to step in later, maybe it's 20 years later or 40 years later, is, I think, pretty high.
Yeah.
So I think in those provisions that you had for the Vinny subdivision, you also had, well, the town can take care of it and
Right.
charge you guys special assess if you're not doing your job.
Right.
And I think that's
Figure that-
fine. It just,
Continue with something like that.
yeah, I think that would be important to get that very clear in a set of covenants that the town would be a party to, and then, having it be their responsibility would be fine.
Yeah. Okay.
So Dave, your point was is not so much to do with CSM this time.
I guess the other thing that I would like to see, because, I mean, looking at the photograph or the printed picture of the actual field,
Or
yeah, that one there, the full color one.
yeah.
I'm not a soils guy by any stretch, but you can tell what's been wet for a while and what hasn't. I would like to see a distinct, firm delineation made of what's going to be buildable, what's not. Because going by the concept plan that he has laid out, that Kim had up on the screen just a moment ago, before this picture, the one, this one, the concept plan. I would buy somebody a soda if some of those lots that they have up in the north and the northeast corner will actually be able to exist because of the hydric soils. And the county is going to be hammering on the hydric soils. That's their latest kick about allowing development and managing hydric soils. And I have no reason to doubt.
Did you read?
I did.
So
But
we'll go by that Scott Taylor's delineation.
well, the county's going to have a kick at the cat, and their soils guy and their water
Yeah.
person is, so I guess You know, if,
And that's all gonna have to be worked out with the Army Corps too.
right, but I guess this document here of showing all the potential lot markups and everything, I guess I would not want to be a part of any even conceptual approval of anything like this at all. If anything, you know, if you guys decide to approve the potential for the 3 along North Star, you know, that's one thing, but
Well, I don't think,
And then the
My concern-
stormwater back here.
well, somewhere back there.
once we get these 3 lots, we can't do anything here until we get an engineering firm.
Correct.
To come with all, to put it in retention and see what's gonna happen here.
Yeah.
Correct, but because of issues that the town's had recently, I'm not willing to go ahead and give somebody approval for something unless all of the questions are answered and, you know, that come before us. You know, I understand money is a huge object, but I don't want to say, okay, you can sell these off for you to get money so you can do the rest of your work, which is what happened out on Kennedy Road. And I just want to see everything figured out. So all we got to do is come back. You'll come to us and say, I've got buyers for lots A through L or whatever it turns out to be. And then we can sit down and figure out. That's my 2 cents.
Judging from the map here, from this view, those soil colors, right here, you got your lots here and here. There's 2 of them there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, you know,
They
we talk
may
about,
not-
huh?
Those may not end up being
Those may not
lots.
be there,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So is it something to say to table for more information?
Well, I guess is the concept appropriate for maybe the first 3 lots to be on the newly built North Star Road, and the thought that there will be a large retention lot somewhere on the east side, and that we want the trees that are in the middle to try and protect the good ones,
Resources, yeah.
knowing that when you turn North Star Road and go east, that road's going to be improved, and we want dedication.
Mhm.
The lot sizes on those other ones, we aren't going to determine that now because we don't know what's going to go there.
Okay.
It could be 1 acre lot, or somebody could want 10 acres.
Sure.
Or 12.
Sure.
Depending on what their business is.
So are you going to require the stormwater facilities as part of approval of the
First
first 3
3.
lots? So you're going to have 3 business lots plus lot 4 is what's left. And on lot 4 is where, on the other side is where all the stormwater goes. So
Right.
you're basically going to have a developer's agreement
Yeah.
for that.
Mark, I got a question for you, kind of pulling for your county experience and stuff. Do you know right now if commercial lots have to have 100% stormwater retention?
No, 90% is the standard,
90%
But
is the standard?
Pre-development.
right?
Okay.
But the county stormwater ordinance is strict and they'll have to meet it. And it makes sense to understand what you're going to have to do up front as opposed to be surprised by it later.
Later on.
Can they design those ponds, the size of those, without knowing how the other lots are going to be, how much impermeable surface there's going to be in all those?
There would need to be an assumption made as to how much impervious they are. And as long as they stay under that total,
And that would.
then it'd be fine.
Yeah.
That happens pretty often in a industrial setting like this.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'd have to, in addition to 1, 2, 3, 4 lot CSM with that on the 4th lot, there'd have to be, at least an easement to encompass the area of the stormwater that would, be the area that would, where responsibility for maintenance would be assigned. Ultimately, if this develops further, that could be put in a separate lot or an outlot.
Yeah.
But if you wanted to stay with, the CSM option, you can't do that now and get 3 lots along North Star Road because you'd be up to 5 lots at that point.
They count that outlot.
If you were, because that outlot counts as a lot. So it would have to be done a little more cleverly up front through some sort of easement, stormwater management easement over part of lot 4.
Okay,
I think my part about it is with the lot size, it's not so much maybe the lot size, it's the businesses that we're attracting to come in there. We also can't control that other than what we have right here in general commercial zone.
well, for now, we could tell him that we aren't going to have transit and tourist lodging. Won't be allowed. We probably aren't going to allow governmental, institutional, religious, or nonprofit communities there. The other one.
Would make a good cemetery.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I
I
doubt
crossed
that
that one off.
I doubt that we would want to allow a daycare there. I'm on the fence about indoor entertainment and assembly.
And indoor sales, what type of indoor sale? Frequency, I think of frequency coming in and off
Oh,
the traffic.
The distance from the highways for this site raises challenges for what is a marketable use.
yeah, for
I,
for retail.
Steve and Troy, I respect your comments and, trying to get the highest and best use here really makes a lot of sense. It's going to be harder to do that here than it would, for instance, ownership's all screwed up here, but for the vacant sites that are, along 12, there you should really stick to your guns
Yeah.
on quality, of
High visibility.
high visibility, more, opportunity for commercial service and something that would, draw people to the community, right?
Right.
Here it's going to be a little harder. You've got a design review ordinance where you can set minimum standards for design,
Mhm.
and you do have the ability to limit uses. But I would guess that contractor type uses, storage facilities with perhaps a little bit of assembly and a little bit of an office is going to be the very typical use.
Yeah.
And outdoor storage, potentially.
Mhm.
So some of the uses, frankly, that don't fit for whatever reason in village business parks, may come here.
Right. So have we come to some conclusion on the concept being somewhat okay with things that he has to watch out for as he moves forward?
You got a pretty good list there.
Okay,
Things to watch
you
out
put
for.
enough on your plate?
I have no problem with that. My next step is to hire an engineer.
Yeah.
So I have no problem with having to come back with an engineered plan. So this answers a lot more questions.
Yeah.
So you'll see where the water retention goes and we'll know about the tiles and, the lot size. We can probably work with the lot sizes. No problem with that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think at this point lot size is that
No, it's not.
cut and dried for any of us here.
Yeah.
We know that there are going to be various sizes depending on whoever wants to build there.
Yeah.
I mean, Capital Underground needed a lot more than, what was the other guy's name?
Yeah,
The landscape.
Yeah. So I think as a concept, we're okay then.
So then will that concept go to the town board before you guys act on anything further, or?
We don't have anything else to work on, so
I mean, does the town board need to accept the concept?
I don't think so. You?
No, I don't think so.
It's only a concept at this point. So when he gets closer to something final, then we'll send it to the town board to agree with us or not. It's too much is in flux right now.
Okay.
Okay?
I just did not want to send them down the wrong path.
Right.
Approve something tonight and go, wait a minute, we're gonna have to pull back the reins on this.
Yeah.
Is the request going to be to just zone commercially at the present time, those 3 lots? Or are you looking to zone commercial, apply commercial zoning to the whole thing?
It'd be 4 lots. It'd be the three little lots, and then number 4 is a great big one with the plat afterwards.
But
It'd be all commercial.
how can you delineate the size of those lots right now until you have your stormwater done and everything? I would just as soon do the big rectangle and have him come back with the small stuff once he has more info.
I mean, he could do it that way, or he could do the 4 and the 1 big one.
And just
But
do,
the engineer's gonna have to figure that out, where the water's gonna go.
Yeah.
you could zone it all commercial with that split, with that CSM, and then
Yes.
let it split in the smaller ones as
As he
demand
divides
shows
it.
up. Yeah. Instead of having to come back and rezone that bigger piece again when you're already working on saying that it's gonna be planned for commercial.
Right. So when you have something more, then we can act on it in the zoning.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. I accept that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good luck tomorrow.
No. We'll drink the juice right now.
Yeah. Have fun.
See you later.
All right. Moving on, Aaron Kalis, applicant Michael McEvy, landowner. Seeking
Yes,
consent.
my name is Aaron. My name is Aaron Cleese. Can you hear me?
Yes. Seeking
Okay,
consent.
I apologize. I would have been in person, but from what the information I gathered, this was a Zoom meeting, so I apologize.
You want to start and tell us about it?
Yes, my client is looking to develop the nearly 12 acres of property on North Star Road into a commercial development that would house contractor units that would do either drywall or plumbing or electrical out of their facility. There would be limited exterior storage. We would have covenants placed on the material that could be stored, eliminating any kind of hazardous material. And right now we are proposing on developing roughly 4.5 acres of the lot to facilitate the first phase of this development. I know there were a number of questions, both by the town reviewer and the county, initially addressing the sanitation requirements and the water requirements of the site. And the revised plan identifies those. I've worked with Jeff Hamish to approximately size those requirements, and I know that those are a little bit in flux right now, but I feel that I have more than adequately provided the area required for the septic.
So I guess my first question is, are these smaller units more saleable, rentable than a larger building that's subdivided?
Yes, the research has shown that a small contractor will more readily rent these rather than someone who's more established that's looking for something to build their business on. So these are basically starter units for contractors.
Do you have any information on existing development like this that has been up and running for 2 years, 10 years, whatever, to show how it's doing?
I do not. This is purely speculative at this point, but given the expansion in these fields in the recent years, my client feels that this is a proposal that will see success.
I guess in your phase one, you have a place showing for deliveries and loading. I'm not sure what you mean by that.
That would be for like straight trucks, bulk unloading off of possibly semis, just an area for a large vehicle to be unloaded.
And then how do they get it to the individual units? Drive down the
Well,
road?
that would be up to the individual contractor. I'm assuming that they would have some type of skid steer or loader, or they would be taking the stuff off the truck and then transferring it to their facility by hand.
And you look like you have 3 retention ponds, stormwater retention ponds.
I show 4, but yes.
1,
Southwest corner. Got that one.
Here's 4.
And those are purely based on the existing topography. Those can be adjusted depending upon what the civil engineer would recommend. But I feel that the area allotted for the stormwater retention is more than adequate for the site, especially given the fact that the pervious area is less than the pervious area is less than I'm sorry, the impervious area is less than 32%.
I don't know if I agree with that.
And in phase 1, you're only having one location for a trash enclosure?
Correct. That trash enclosure is roughly 20 by 40, which would accommodate up to 8 dumpsters.
And so those 4 units would deliver everything there. Is the facility going to be fenced and gated?
No, it is not. That is not the intent.
All exterior lighting would be on the buildings?
Yes, correct. All exterior lighting would be building mounted, and we would have full cutoffs to avoid any kind of light spillage onto adjacent lots.
And so you have parking available for each building to the right of it. Is the southern entrance to the building located on the south side of the building?
Yes, it is. So if you look on sheet A13, I believe, or A3, that would show the proposed layout of the unit. So it would be split. So each unit would have an overhead door and a man door at the front of the building.
So would that just be a sidewalk
Correct.
and parking on the side?
Correct. And the parking on the side, we are envisioning purely for the employees that actually work at the facility. We're not envisioning any type of retail activity happening at these locations.
Okay. And you're aware that the northwest portion of the property is located within 300 feet of an intermittent stream?
Yes, we are, and we feel
Shoreline
that
zoning?
yes, we feel that the proposed work that would happen in that area is compliant with the requirements for that area.
Questions? Go ahead. There's a similar facility on Reiner Road, or excuse me, off of Reiner Road, almost directly across from the town of Burke Town Hall. There's Hammer's new automotive repair facility and a mini warehouse facility that are just off of Reiner Road, and a twin almost, what I'm seeing here to this development, maybe not so much in size, is located further east on this road. And it is a pigsty. I mean, there are junk cars parked where the employee cars were parked. There is stuff in the driveways leading up to the garage. I don't have a clue as to what kind of rules and regulations are in effect, by the township there, for that facility to be built, but I am not impressed. There's guys working on cars and there's black marks on the road from, people doing burnouts, and it's just was not, it just doesn't look very nice. And yes, it's off the main road, but still, I'm going to go back to my vision of what our North Star development should look like. And, if something like was this stuff off what exists off of Reiner Road comes down this way, I don't think we should have it, and there, even if we put forth a lot of strict covenants like no outside storage, or, we could go, to the nth degree, who's going to enforce it? The idea of having dumpster enclosures, everybody knows what they're like. Everybody throws stuff in. Outsiders even throw stuff in the dumpster enclosures. The doors are hanging open. I'm sorry, I just am not enamored with this kind of development at all.
Well, I can appreciate your concerns, and I hope this would be a managed development. It would not be a free-for-all where it's owner condos. This would be a development that was managed by an entity to, again, enforce those covenants. And I feel that the restrictions that my client is trying to impose or suggesting be imposed would alleviate most of your fears.
Yeah, because we probably wouldn't allow any outside storage.
And my client is fine with that. My client actually does not want any kind of outside storage. They want to maintain this facility as a clean and upstanding, kind of a jewel of, a contractor location where the respect of the facility is kept at the highest standard.
What experience does your client have in this type of development? Does he have property management experience?
Yes, my client has thousands of units in the Dane County area, and is in high regard with both the city and the county. So They have a long history, I would say at least 40 years of managing facilities and providing a good community experience.
I have a question for the caller.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
I guess, I don't know how anybody else on the commission feels. I guess I would like references. Your turn.
Steve, got to the point. Do you have any references right now that you'd be willing to share in the area that's somewhere maybe within 10 to 15 mile radius of our township that he has any of these developments?
I'm sorry off the top of my head, I do not.
There's one development
not within that radius.
Okay. Well, there's one particular development that's very, very similar to this, and it's off of Walsh Road. And I'm not a fan of it. I actually did some work over there, and I'm not a fan of the project. Now, you mentioned these are condominiums. Can you describe or what you mean? What's your vision on who's going to own? Is there going to be a partial ownership? How does this work?
So the initial investment they would be rental units, and the entity would own the entire lot and rent the units out to clients. So in the future, the goal is to maybe go to a unit ownership type of program, but currently and initially it will be a rental agreement.
How many rental agreements does he have now versus condo?
I would say over 3,000.
Does he have any personal interest in these units right now?
No.
Well, earlier when we were talking, we had another similar kind of development with another gentleman. What?
To the north, correct?
Yes, to the north. It's exactly this is what I did not want to lead him down on a path saying, hey, look at your neighbor to the south. You said you're going to use one septic system for this whole unit, this whole complex?
Yeah. So in the estimations, again, speaking with Jeff Hamish, we have determined that each unit will use roughly 40 to 60 gallons of water per day, given the fact that these are not retail units, they're not office units, they're not, places where people are going to be on a daily basis. So the septic system that is sized is roughly 3.5 times what would be required based on those estimates.
How many gallon holding tank or solids tank are we talking about?
Well, currently it would be a minimum of 2,000 gallons for the initial 4-unit development. But that would all have to be adjusted on future requirements and all of that. So I honestly can't give you an accurate number.
Kind of what you're telling me is you're going to put in a 2-gallon or 2,000-gallon tank with a drain field, and then as you increase your development, you're going to rip out that tank or add a tank, increase your drain field size.
Potentially, yes, but I believe that the drain field size is more than adequate to support the development with at least 100% increase. But again, we don't see that increase being necessary because we are going to eliminate any kind of food production, any kind of washing facilities, anything like that would be heavily water intensive.
judging, okay, you have 4 parking spots and the county will take this into account per unit. All right, you have 23 units, that's 112, or excuse me, 92, sorry, my math. That's almost 100 people on a 750 gallon or 2,000 gallon tank. And knowing how big my drain field is at my home, for my wife and I mean, our house is an average house. Where do you have your drain field situated here? Every large free space has been determined to be.
You have to look at this updated one that's.
Yeah, there is an updated plan that shows the drain field that eliminates 4 of the units on the northern edge of the lot.
Not in that packet, it was on top of that because it came in late.
It runs different than the one here. You can see that crosshatch, must be the drain cell.
Yeah.
So how many units are in the drawing? 20?
21, if you take away the 3.
No, it's not.
It's a total of 19.
Oh, okay.
I guess it's 19.
Yeah, 19.
Well, you're gonna put 19 units up, you times that by 2 because you're gonna divide it, you'll have 2 toilets in each one. 38. 38 toilets.
One well.
You're gonna have 1 well.
That is the current intent. That's obviously based upon soil testing and all of that.
Steve, it's the one that has a sticker on the top that says revised concept.
The one thing it stands out to me is that you're gonna bring up the development and sooner or later, you're gonna cash it in. You're gonna sell it off as condos. And then it's gonna be really hard to kind of control what goes on in there. It may not happen today, may not happen tomorrow, but it is.
Well, it may not happen ever, honestly.
Well, now, didn't you state before that you've got some other ones that he doesn't even hold anymore because he's converted them all into condos? That's exactly what they did on Walls Road.
No, that's not at all what I stated.
Oh. So that's what I was asking, if he had any interest in any of these developments that he's had.
No, he does not have any personal interest in this development. There is nothing that he is personally putting in for this development.
So you will have some grassed area around each of the buildings?
Correct, yes. The intent is to have the majority of the lot to be landscaped or, natural prairie type of
Vegetation. And as you're going east from your delivery loading area, that bump out, I assume that's for semis to turn around and go back out?
That is the fire truck turnaround that is required because the dead end is more than 150 feet.
Is there an issue with fire intensity?
And that's just for the phase 1.
Right, because phase 2 allows for access throughout the development, so therefore the turnaround is not required.
Yeah. In phase 2, what's the paved width of the road?
We have a minimum of 30 feet.
Okay. So I guess some of the things that we've discussed so far is that there'd be no outside storage on
Correct.
any of these, would be a requirement.
Or vehicles. Outside of.
Workers, cars coming to work. What else did we have? I don't know, do you think it would need to be fenced?
I'm sorry, say that again, please.
I'm asking the board here, their feeling if it would need to be fenced.
Oh, okay.
At least from 12 and 18. Any view, you know, where there'd be residents. That's good.
Yeah.
The height and that. They put a berm and then.
Mark, do you have any
What's that?
comments?
I get, Chris, I think you were asking this before, is that, did you or your client consider a multi-tenant building or buildings where, for instance, the 4 units in phase 1 might be just one building with maybe spaces that would be sized to accommodate precise needs of each user, and a common parking lot that could kind of flex and float. You know, if one business required 1 space and another required 10. I just wonder if that was an option that was considered, and if not, why not?
It was an option that was considered, but based upon my client's research, this size unit was most preferable. So that is definitely an option to do a bigger size building with more consolidated parking, less driveway access. But again, this is purely a conceptual plan.
So if a particular user wanted something aside from a 50 by 45 foot building and 4 parking spaces, then this development would provide that? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that would be an option. We would still stick with the architecture style of the smaller building, possibly expand that a little bit to increase the scale, but it would still maintain the overall.
I would echo what some of the earlier comments is that it would be very helpful to gain some understanding of a few projects that are working, whether they're within 10 or 15 miles, doesn't really matter to me. But where is this type of development working well and operated by your client, and ideally, so that we can get a better picture of what's being proposed in the field?
Okay.
I'd feel much better with, again, larger buildings that were divided up. If you have one building where you could have 4 units, or you could even have just 2 units in it, or even one where 4 very large units in it, where you'd actually take about 6 of these buildings and put them together.
And I think that provides more flexibility for potential users than like the single family concept.
Yeah.
And it,
I'm a drywaller now, and business is very good, so I need to expand my business by 75%. Do I have to move?
right.
Well, I mean, I guess at that point you could take the entire building. I mean, that would be an option at a minimum.
One of these smaller ones.
That'd be an option if you had a multi-tenant building with different bays and sizes, and if they couldn't expand into the next bay because someone was occupying it, they could go to the next building.
Yeah.
Where they could double their space or whatever they needed to do.
And again, I'm going to echo on Femrite Drive, the whole McAllen development there on more of the east end. He has some very nice looking, large buildings with multiple tenants in them, as opposed to these smaller buildings that are typically going to be tin sided with a little bit of brick fascia on it.
The other side of 90.
And, it's going to look like a self-storage warehouse. And in this particular area, again, I do not like to see it.
The only other comment that I would offer is that in our conceptual plan, we are, for this area, we're kind of depending on this Road A
Yeah.
to be built to provide access to the lands. I think Swalheim owns a little bit of that lands to the east as well. Makes me a little bit nervous to know that we wouldn't have the option of bringing a public road through here, this site instead, to get back to the lands to the east. You're kind of looking at me like I'm speaking Spanish.
They have a copy. of
Yeah,
the-
I'm sorry, I'm not sure what
Further south.
drawing you're referring to.
Property.
Yeah, so my interest is making sure that we're not closing doors to get access to this land back here.
Right.
Oh,
Yeah, okay. And we're sort of, the way the plan is drawn up, we're depending on, a future road extending through the property to the south. And then access would be provided that way. There's no guarantee of that.
Right.
So, I would hate to close the door to, providing some access to that same area west of this site through the site.
Yeah.
Just to provide options.
Looking at your building layout and elevations, are all of them going to be constructed with the same color and material?
No, we would definitely have variation on color to provide some visual interest in the site. But the intent on the style, all the buildings on the site would match that type of style. Yeah.
I was waiting for that.
More questions, comments?
I have
Thoughts?
nothing further.
I guess if you could email us a list of some similar properties that we could look at to see how well they're performing and visually what they really look like, I think that would be appreciated.
Okay.
Anybody interested in seeing larger building concept plan?
Yeah, I would be all for a larger building. I think it's,
An option.
yeah. Yeah.
And I don't disagree with you. I feel like a larger building would be an option, but it's fully dependent upon the type of contractor that is willing to relocate. So we are not ruling that out by any means, but again, this is the proposed minimum.
So are you saying that nothing will be built until you have a signed contract with a contractor that's going to occupy it?
Correct.
So it could take you 20 years to fill these 19 lots? Or it could take you,
I certainly hope not, but I mean, anything is possible.
and if we were to require a build out within 4 years, 10 years, is that going to be a problem?
To be perfectly honest, that's something I would have to discuss with my client. At this point, I don't see that being a problem, but because it's speculative, there is a bit of risk involved.
Fair enough.
As far as giving us some other properties around that are like this, are they going to have the same footprint? Building size?
Something
I'm sorry, I don't understand your question.
similar sized buildings in other developments? Do you have, if you have anything like that, we would like to see
Oh, okay,
where they would be located?
sure. I can pass that information along.
Yeah, if we can see some variation in his portfolio as to what he has out there, I think we would like to take a look at it.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments? I guess, what?
I think it's actually, and I think
Um,
That's it, plan approval.
future plan approval. Well, can you
You've heard our concerns and our requests. I guess when you're ready to move forward with it, we'll be back on the agenda. But if in the meantime, you can give us that list of other properties, we can take our time and circle around and look at those.
So the next time.
Okay. Well,
How are you gonna?
I guess, sorry, I apologize. I guess what I'm looking for is even just a tacit approval of the concept to move forward, seeing as how my client does not currently own the property and they are looking to purchase this property with the thought of developing it into this concept.
I would say you have mixed review of the concept. I think more members were probably looking for a larger building than this many small ones.
Okay.
Have a mix. 2 units together, 3 units,
Yeah.
whatever.
2, 3, 4 units, and maybe some variation in the style of the building so that it doesn't get to looking too ticky-tacky. I don't know.
All right. Les Stepford wife, got it.
Okay,
All right. I will pass this information along to my client. Can I give them at least a somewhat positive approval on this concept? I mean, given your further recommendations, or how should I relate this
tell
information?
him that we've given you our concerns over what you have proposed. And so now he has to decide, is he going to stay with the 19 units or is he going to have some various sizes to the buildings?
What are
Okay.
you back with? What are you expecting them to come back with?
He's either going to come back and tell us that the plan that we have now is what he wants, or he's going to show us a different plan that may have a fewer number of buildings, some of them being larger to occupy, that would take up 3 or 4 of these versus,
Variability.
yeah, variability.
So I take it this is part of your client's due diligence or step of due diligence, correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay,
Yeah.
so.
And we want to see some of his other projects that we can take a look at.
Okay.
See how
But,
well it turned out.
But I can express that overall you are supportive, but you require more information. Is that consistent with your view?
Yeah.
You know, I'm very skeptical. I'll word it that way. If he's gonna buy the land, that's his choice. But I'm gonna say I'm very skeptical of the plan. I would, again, like to see larger buildings. Septic system is, I think is off as it is. Not a big fan of it. So if that would help with your due diligence, I guess that's the best I can give you.
Okay. All right, I appreciate that.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Moving on, Brian Kofflacher, applicant landowner, 2896 Femright Drive, seeking to combine parcels zoned RR2 and RR4 and deed restricted against residential development into a single 8.2 acre parcel zoned RR8.
What the heck?
We want to put up
Everyone need this?
a small building. Our farm buildings are falling apart. I need some storage. So
the old butcher, okay.
I need some barn doors.
come on over. It's about ready to fall over. There's a 66-foot easement strip. That's the best spot for the building next to our home. I provided a little map of it. Currently that 6.2 acres is deed restricted. I think they rezoned it FP6 or FP8. And as you can see, there's no farmland associated with it whatsoever. It's been in trees and prairie grasses and stuff for almost 20 years.
Did you build your house?
No, before that, actually.
Was it before that?
It was, yeah, I built in 06 and I planted the trees and whatnot and prairie grass in 04.
So Brian, why do they have a easement back there that chunk?
So Dane County, well, they wanted it to touch Femright and I believe that's South Hope. They wanted access to that. So if there was ever any future residential development, it would have access to it. Obviously that was never, there's no intent on my part to ever want to put a house back there or anything. Knowing what I know now, I was pretty young when I built. I would have done it a little bit different, but you know, life happens. So just to the south of where we have basically a little parking area, we'd like to stick basically a 40 by 60 if we can fit it. I'll have Dan Baroncott mark the lot lines out, but trying to get a storage shed in there. That's no livable space, nothing like that.
Who owns land in the front?
My dad does, and the idea was if I have to, I can buy that from my parents. So there would be, that land would touch, I went through a lot of different ideas as far as how to do this. And we did have that as LC2 for quite some time as a spot zone when I had my refrigeration business. We switched it on the other side of Femright, which now encompasses our farm buildings. So that's right now in Farm Preservation 35, which isn't correct because it's only 20 some acres, but whatever. So I could buy that from my parents because it's worthless. I mean, it's in prairie grass right now. It was no gravel quarry. It's complete horrible. So it's just all sand and rocks. So
Isn't that what they used to build Femright?
they did. And then originally, and I mean, it's part of 12 and
Yeah.
we capped that over in 93, I believe is when we flattened that out, somewhere in that, around that time frame. So and I know Cottage Grove, when I built, you guys have a 2 acre limit on it. And that's why I'm here to see if there's anything we can do, because it really, I can't put anything up there right now. So I'm hopeful that exceptions can be made on certain things. I know in the past that's happened. Dane County, I've spoken with them, they're fine with. Matter of fact, they're the ones that recommended changing it to the 8.2.
What does the deed restriction actually say?
It's because it was A2 and it was deed restricted because he used the development right to his lot.
Right, I can understand that.
But then when they, normally back then, there was A2, but it went to RR4. But that would imply a building right, so it's deed restricted. See, there aren't any small lot eggs that aren't farmland preservation anymore under the new zoning code, so you end up with these RRs that are deed restricted. That's why it's.
But that's for residential development, right?
Right.
How does the shed fall under residential
It
development?
doesn't, but he doesn't own that. I mean, or he owns it, but
It's a separate parcel.
separate parcel, so
You can't
you
have
have
a
to
building on
follow
a
the
separate
setbacks
parcel
on each
without a house.
parcel versus putting it all together. 'Cause he can't, he can't build in that little 66-foot thing. He'd have to fit in the setbacks of that whole thing. Plus, you can't build on it, you can't put a shed on our parcel without a house, and you can't put a house on it.
Well, what can't, the county can go ahead and change the zoning.
There isn't another one. Under the new zoning code, there's no small lot. It's under.
Mark, do you have any suggestions?
It's an unusual case. The town plan does, as you know, say maximum lot size is 2 acres, but it does say, except that the town board may approve a greater side due to unusual land configuration, better protect farmland for commercial uses and/or to enhance rural or scenic character.
Yeah.
So there is a outlet, I guess, if you want to take it.
You know, when I originally did this in 2006, Dane County shot me down because we had a whole different design layout and it cost, I spent a lot of money with Dan Berencott resurveying it 2 different times to get exactly what the city of Madison wanted, because we're in the district, territorial district. And you were there because, I mean, we had to fight for it because their building people denied it. And it was a battle. It was a 2-year battle. And then they, you know, so this is what we ended up with, which is never made sense to me with that easement strip going back there like that. But that was the only way at the time I could build my house on our family property.
You pull that 2 acres off that chunk that's in red right there.
Well, I got no problem doing
No,
that.
That's what you originally did.
Yes.
Which is why, that's why they. Added in a lot of change it. If we did that, you know, does it hurt anything other than deviates away from the 2 acres? You can't build any house on it.
No.
And it's gonna stay somewhat more
So
preserved.
it really doesn't hurt anything.
It cost me a bunch of money in taxes, because I had talked to the assessor and it's $150,000 increase in my tax bill, which is $1,500. Yeah, awesome.
That's just for the.
That's just for the lot, not the building.
Yeah. All right, let's take it a step further then. Say, when your folks pass and say you acquire the land out in front of your house. All right. Want to see that added to.
FP, but it's not even in the farm preservation, correct? Farm
No, right, but I'm just saying is the county is gonna want to correct that at some point. Yeah.
I mean,
You know,
I don't
I
think-
guess I wouldn't want you coming to us, hey, I'd like to combine this land that I got from my folks into.
Oh, I don't want it in my house lot, but Lord, it would be super expensive. I mean, it just makes it more expensive for me on taxes. Understand your points.
Yeah,
Steve.
that's what I was just thinking along those lines. Seeing you back here in 15 years when.
Well, right, and you know, that farmland, there's a strip behind my brother's home that connects onto another parcel that my dad owns. I mean, it's all interconnected, but it's still not, still not 35 acres. I think it's 18. I have to pull the plot up.
No, 18.4, you got it.
Yeah. So it's still not zoned correctly. When Dane County went and redid that, they still didn't do it right.
So to change the subject,
All right.
you still own the parcel on the south side of 12 and 18 with the little pond?
My family does, yes.
You gotta cut up the tree.
Huh?
You gotta cut up the tree.
That big willow tree?
Yeah.
I might go start it on fire.
Almost to the road, but
Well, there's,
Oh, I know.
yeah,
little triangle.
yeah,
Yeah, Nelson.
right there in Nelson. Yeah, that thing was a monster, but
It is.
I've got a couple trees, so not related to this at all. I have some trees on my lot, on that 2 acres, 66 foot that are getting close to Fenright and the South Hope. One of them's dead. Is that I'm assuming that's my responsibility to cut and
Yes.
remove? Okay. I figured I didn't,
Unless it's in the road right away.
and it's 66 from the center, is that correct?
33.
33 from the center, I'll take care of it.
Yeah. Somebody want to make a motion?
Yep. I'd move approval for his petition for RR2 and RR4, 2.0 and 6.2 acres for a grand total of 8.2 acres.
Eight.
To RR8. Do we need any dedication for anything? No, I think we're good so far, right?
Doesn't have to be deed restricted.
Yep,
And it's just because it's such an odd size
correct.
as the reason to deviate from the plan.
Yes.
Motion by Anders, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mike. Discussion on the motion to approve. Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carried. You'll be on the town board on Monday.
Thank you, thank you.
Don Vinnie applicant, Vinnie Acres LLC landowner, Nora Road, rezone of 4.9 plus or minus acres from FP 35 to RR2 to create 2 residential lots, tabled from the May meeting.
Dan's also on.
It's a lot.
Dan, I muted you because we were getting feedback here, so that's why.
Okay.
No, but when you want to talk, you can. We'll let you.
All right, sounds good. So, Don, do you want me to lead way?
Yeah, go ahead. Yep.
Don decided to take a different look at what we've been proposing. And so what we ended up, the lot 3 that were showed has been approved as just a remnant for the farm. And so we're just adding an access onto that lot 3. And then Don decided just to go with 2 lots. Because lot 3 is an existing lot, we can add land onto it. And then Don has the capability to create 2 new lots. And that's why with the challenges of the slopes that we had, Don felt that we had 2 nicer buildable lots. And so that's why we went with this design that we've got lots 1 and 2. Lot 2 will be the 66-foot road access, the legal access. And then we'll be requesting a variance for lot 1 because it doesn't have road frontage, but it will be getting its access through lot 2. So that's, you know, kind of what we're proposing.
Lot 3 is deed restricted right now.
Yeah. So the little triangle piece to the north of Nora Road, what's going to happen with that?
We're in the plans of selling it to the guy that wants the land on that side. I'm
Okay.
actually giving it to him just to clean it up.
Yeah, so we don't have that.
Yeah, no, I don't want it anyhow. He
Hanging
does,
there.
so.
In the back line, west side, that comes just top of the ridge of the hill. It doesn't go across the backside.
That's right.
Ridge, okay.
That's why they got wider
Yeah.
instead of.
Yeah.
That was what Dan was trying to say here is the biggest is we can put an envelope on where the homes are gonna go and they don't use those steeper areas.
Okay.
And that's why we designed them the way we did, because there was a better spot on lot 2 and on lot 1 if we made it a little bit wider.
Okay.
Plus, there's a lot of really nice trees in there. I'm sure the homeowner would want to leave them, you know.
Certified survey map, he didn't need to show any envelope of any sort.
He gave us a sample of what the driveway would be.
For that one.
That I included that in the packet. That was provided for one of the previous meetings. Or as a response to one of the previous meetings, that sample was provided by Deer.
Will you make any changes to that easement so that you know who's going to be responsible for the plowing of the driveway?
That'll all be in the driveway easement, yeah.
So lot one doesn't come back.
They will sign, they will basically sign covenants on something like that. Up front, that, you know, there's no issue. That's all we can do, kind of like what, you know, we did up here is, if you don't have something like that, that's when arguments happen.
Right.
Like the meeting we had the other night when the
Yes.
people didn't know they had covenants.
That they had a covenant.
They signed for them and yet.
We're up here?
Yes.
Yeah.
Seriously?
Kyle did not give them covenants. And they sat here and they said, we didn't know anything about covenants. It's like, well, you signed them. Somebody had to sign them because they're at the register of deeds. And these people.
Whatever was slid in front of them.
I mean, I don't know how they did. This goes back on the seller, which was Kyle, but. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
So I don't know how can something get through a sale through register of deeds and someone not find that? That's the part, because I mean, it was all,
You know, the title
Yeah.
companies dig all that stuff out.
yeah,
Yeah.
They just signed it.
But they signed it, right?
they,
They just signed
They-
what was put in front of them. They didn't.
I think that's it. I don't think they realized what they signed.
It's their app on their phone, just check it.
Yeah.
They didn't have it in a hurry.
I mean, that was the biggest thing is
Yeah.
Chris Miller is the people, the one that's, you know, we're dealing with on the people that want these two lots. And I've made it specific that we need to make sure that these people know when there's a situation after seeing what, you know,
Yeah.
was surprising up here.
I don't want
know
to
how it
call
could
the
happen.
town for why the road's not plowed
Yeah,
in the winter
I
time.
don't know how it can happen. I don't know how it can go through
Yeah.
a sale without someone.
And the lots are a little bit more than 2 acres. It's because of the slope of the land.
Yeah, we're trying, the biggest thing with two is Dan is trying to bring the driveway for two in farther to the south where it's a lot more flatter, where that little, there's a building in the corner that actually, like your boards here, there was one in front of it, but the building that's still
It's a
there is,
strip house.
yeah, it's an 1800s building.
Yeah.
And we're hoping that lot owner, it
Keeps
sounds like they want to keep it right now, but the driveway is better coming into the south side of that lot because
Yeah.
it's a lot flatter. Troy kind of knows the layout.
Mhm.
Well, lot one won't have too big of a problem. I mean,
No.
they just have to get off from North Road, so
Yeah,
if it brings their driveway down close to the entry, it's not gonna be a really big
Yeah.
deal. There won't be much for maintenance or anything like that.
and that's all pretty flat there anyway.
It's pretty flat.
Any other questions or comments? Who wants to make a motion?
Move to approve.
Motion by Mule to approve. Second. Second by Anders, and you're going to put in your motion to approve that it was because of the slope of the land as to why it's more than 2 acres, correct?
Site configuration.
Site configuration. I can buy that, so going from FP 35 to RR2. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Monday night.
Thank you, guys. You guys don't get paid enough, by the way.
You got that right.
Keep that for the chair.
Can we have a second?
Didn't I ask for that at the last annual meeting? It got turned down.
No, you didn't ask for it. You, instead of being forceful and saying, our committee members and supervisors really would deserve
Oh.
a break.
Presentation and discussion with planning consultant, Mark, regarding solar facilities.
All right. So I understand that the work that we did with the town of Springfield kind of got on a roadshow at the Dane County Towns Association regarding solar fields.
It did. Because I'm on the exec committee. so-
Okay, that's fine. So, the town of Springfield, like many towns, is concerned about, massive solar fields being built in their town and them not having really much, if anything, to say about it. And so they asked me in early 2021, this year, to put together a plan amendment. And the purpose of the plan amendment was threefold. It was to try to, if someone wanted to have a solar field, large or small, to try to fit it in the scheme of RDUs or splits, where you're using a split. How much of a site would you put into solar field before you lost a split or an RDU on your site? So that was one of the issues.
So what happens then? They use that split, put a solar field in 10 acres, so they use two RDUs. 30 years later, they pull the solar field, solar array out. Do they get the RDUs back?
Good question.
Or
I would
what
say
happens?
probably yes. If they were gone, then the rights would be restored. And I think that would be the same if a house was built and it got, burned down and they didn't want to build a house in the same spot.
There'd still be an RDU there.
Yeah.
But did they change it to commercial?
That goes in with the question I have. What does the county actually limit if you have a deed restriction on other development for that deed restricted lot?
Well, I think they're crafted for each site. There's a standard that limits no new housing, but it could be expanded to limit other activities.
Are they expanding it to other things?
I don't know.
Because things change and you're never going to put a house there. I understand that, but there might be other things you might want to put in that would you be precluded from doing, say recreational thing or something.
Yeah, they're usually not, the restrictions are most often drawn to limit houses, but that doesn't necessarily have to be the case. So anyway, they settled on, if you're, for every 5 acres, as Chris, you suggested, you'd be using a split. The point and purpose of that was, to kind of equate it with something so people could make a calculation. But in addition, it was to try to dissuade people from putting large scale solar fields on their property, saying, hey, if you're going to do that, if you're going to put 20 acres of your land in solar field, you're going to lose 4 splits or 4 RDUs. So people could kind of make that calculation as to whether they wanted to do that. The other thing that Springfield did is that you've got basically a threshold. Smaller scale stuff up to could be, depends on the wattage, the megawatts of power, but yeah, it could be up to 500 acres where it stays in local kind of zoning jurisdiction, you and the county. Once it gets
100 megawatts.
100 megawatts,
That's
about
local.
5 acres per megawatt.
Yeah.
So I'm doing some rough math.
Yeah.
Over that, it's the PSC. So, so you could have, fairly sizable facilities, like, it's been built at the county airport, and there's one in Fitchburg off of Lacey Road that still stays within county zoning jurisdiction.
Mm-hmm.
And so having a set of policies to consider those things and consider, proper location, screening, proximity to existing transmission lines, so you don't have, whatever it might be, is potentially an important thing to include in your plan. It's a kind of a checklist for people that were considering that kind of proposal.
And how do you dismantle it when it's past its use?
And dealing with issues like that, which are not too different, than when you kind of think about quarries and reclamation plans for quarries. Is we've got crazy technological changes going on in our world. Are these things even going to be useful in 20, years or 40 years? Or are we going to have, satellites collecting, solar, whatever, who could have guessed, all this stuff? So I think that's an immediate benefit as well, is to have some sort of preset standards that you can kind of lean on. If someone's proposing, moderately sized proposal that, we are seeing being built in different spots in the county. And then the third benefit, which is probably the least likely to be successful, is if someone comes in with a mega project like going in, to your east. Then it gets kicked to the PSC. It becomes basically gets treated like a power plant. Yeah. And you have the ability to, as a town, to actually weigh in, as a player, but it's, less right, authority than you certainly have with, than for smaller scale stuff. So, the Mark Hazelbaker, who represents the town of Springfield and also with the Dane County Towns Association, said, hey, one of the, not anymore. Okay.
As far as the DCTA, no. They
Oh,
don't.
my mistake.
Yeah.
So in any case, he said, well, for the places that he's representing, the PSC has at least poked at communities that don't have any policies, and then come to a hearing and say, we don't want this. And they, they're asked, well, why don't you want it? You don't have anything in your plan that says you don't want it. So this may help with that. So I know we talked about this already with respect to the comp plan update, and I suggested, hey, I've been working with Springfield on this, and we can bring ideas to your plan. If you're still interested, obviously we'll continue along that track. We're probably, these processes kind of at the end trickle out. We're probably 6 months away from having a plan update adopted. So we could, you could certainly, if you're interested in something like this, we wait until the plan update in the normal process, and you can kind of talk about it. Or if you feel this is sort of an urgent, kind of situation, you could race forward an amendment like we did in Springfield, and 6 weeks from now, or maybe 2 months from now, we'd have an adopted amendment to the old plan. So, that's your call. And obviously the substance of it is your call ultimately. This is just an example of what one town did to respond.
Okay, the county is going to stick one in the township here. I think already, you're aware of that one.
Yeah, I am. Yep. Let me get my pen.
Is it too late to have a kick at the cat in any level on that particular project?
I don't know. I just don't
They
know.
haven't done anything yet.
Well, I know, but that's why, I'm asking. I mean, is it, I don't know if the county's gone and gotten their permits to start construction yet, or anything of the sort, other than the fact we know that they bought the farm and that's what they want to put there is a solar farm.
Yeah. Is there zoning approval that they've received for that, or not yet? So.
No, it's A1 exclusive. And I'm assuming you don't need a zone change, put in a solar farm?
I should know that, but my guess is a conditional use permit might be required, because I know governmental, institutional, utility facilities are allowed, but by conditional use in the A1 exclusive.
So I guess my thought on why would you use an RDU for a solar farm? I guess I don't feel I would, because what's the difference of them putting in a solar farm that's going to be there maybe 50 years? And then technology is going to change and we don't know what it'll be. But if the farmer wanted to put a chicken farm on there, he could do that. And that's going to be a bigger impact on the surrounding community than the solar.
Well, it's kind of like double dipping. He's going to get bazillions of dollars for the use of that land for that solar farm. And then he can turn around and take those splits and send them off to whoever wants to buy them, if they have a PDR, or if he's got a big enough farm, a TDR, to transfer them somewhere else. somewhere else on this farm, you know, and it's kind of like,
Or they can come back to him after they use it.
I don't know that I'd be in
They could.
favor of even restoring them after at whatever time the solar farm were to go away. I mean, that's probably the price to pay for playing in the solar field.
For allowing,
What's that?
for allowing it.
But
Yeah.
they wouldn't allow you to put a solar array in wetlands, would they?
It's a good question. Is if you weren't affecting the wetland and the function of the wetland, potentially you can put a raised, bicycle path through a wetland, on a boardwalk.
Just, we have plenty of wetlands.
You can find a use for the wetland.
I actually think that eventually the technology will come around where they can put that in a floodplain if it's hooked up high enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
But to get it through Dane County zoning.
Yeah. So right now, on the subject of should a RDU be used or not, you do have a policy for commercial and other land uses, and it says non-residential uses shall not count against the one housing unit per 35 acre density policy. In other words, an RDU, as described in figure 2, is not required for non-residential uses. So you currently don't. So if someone, puts a cell tower up, for instance, which is kind of, seems, somewhat similar, they don't need to use an RDU to do that. They have to get a conditional use permit. And, so I think that's comparable to what we're looking at here.
It seemed to me that if you're gonna put, depending if you have a 40 acre and it has a billable right on it, that the bill of rights could stay there. Obviously, you're not gonna put a residential house, or you shouldn't be allowed to put a residential house within the solar field. You can stay there. You can't move it. Thus, and if you pull the panels off at some time and try and reclaim it, your billable right is still there. Does that seem reasonable? Or
Would you not allow him to sell it?
no, be locked on that land as part of the deal to put the solar panels in. You're technically not putting a house there, but you're putting a structure.
You're putting a structure.
Well, you're putting the whole, all the solar panels.
You're right.
You're right.
I worked for another town. I explained just like I explained to you, and they said 5 acres, it seems a bit punitive. We're not getting the same kind of revenue off of 5 acres leased for solar power that we would selling a 5 acre lot. So they said, well, if we're going to do, they haven't done anything about it, which is fine. They said, well, maybe 35. If you're putting 35 acres in a solar field, then we'll lose an RDU because
I could see something like that. I mean, a little bit.
Yeah. I was surprised in reading the one from Saratoga where they have a license,
Oh,
but they never said how much they charge for that license.
yeah, I don't know. I have not.
That's the ordinance, not a comp plan.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, it was an ordinance.
Yeah.
So why was there a license term on that? 35 years and then a 10-year renewal?
Just put some teeth.
Might have
Yeah.
somewhat been, 35 years is, I'm just guessing, a generation, there's going to be a different technology. Pull your license if you're not using it anymore. I know.
Some will say that the life of a panel is 30 years. Agree with that, 20 max, but
Yeah, I know.
I would think we should make some comment about solar fields in the comp plan as to the impact that it has, negative or positive, on the surrounding area.
are we talking about one for personal use, or we're talking larger that will eventually feed into the system?
I think we would want to limit it to the ones that feed into the system. That would be
Not small.
1 megawatt or more.
And how many acres do you need for a meg?
5 to 7 acres.
5 to 7. Yeah, I mean, you're not gonna put that in a residential house. I mean,
Yeah.
if I mean, you're not gonna generate that much electricity on a residential lot. is what I'm
Right,
trying to
if
say.
you put it on your house or your
Yeah.
barn or anything else.
It's a hard issue. I mean, as a planner, it's a challenging issue because, those big solar field, I don't call them solar farms, that kind of is a goofy term. They're fields of solar panels.
Yes.
And, they can and do have a significant impact on the landscape. I drive by the 151 north of the airport, all the time, and holy cow, it looks different out there.
Yeah.
At the same time, I'm also feeling that we can't rely on pulling, oil out of the earth and burning that indefinitely either.
No.
So, where's the balance there is?
Being a planner on the plan commission, so to speak, is my main concern is the existing farms and how they get negatively impacted. An going concern can be negatively impacted by the high rents that are being offered. So their cost of operation is
Increasing.
exacerbated, so they become non-economic anymore.
You got another competitor to raise farm prices, land prices.
So Hinchley just put in $2 million of improvements, and he's probably losing a lot of his land base. That's not what we want to see. Is that competition for that land. If there's a way to limit that, that's what I'm interested in.
Otherwise, they have the ability of popping up all over.
Right. The probability of us having one is far more remote because we don't have a big distribution line going through our township.
That is it.
Right here, ATC
Well, down,
On N,
on it.
right
that's
here.
not a big one.
Yeah,
I'm thinking like the one along the interstate or going to
Yeah,
a substation.
But the one out at the airport isn't anywhere near a line that big either,
That pretty much feeds Cottage Grove, right?
What's that?
That power line? That you're
No,
talking
it
about?
goes up somewhere.
it's gotta be 230.
Could you feed that substation on Femrite? It's not too far, is it?
I don't know, but I
Down by the
know
interstate.
that it's north. Do we have the ability to limit solar development, I'll just use that term loosely, to a certain percentage of the township? So we don't become, 15 square miles of solid solar farm? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, you can put that in a policy, but then the only way that's really going to happen is if it's a facility that is exempt from local zoning and becomes a PSC issue.
Override it.
Yeah, but we could certainly include in the policy that, we appreciate that, smaller scale facilities or even 40 here or there might be appropriate. We just don't want, half of our town or whatever you pick the number.
yeah,
Doesn't that kind of go to what you said, Hazel Baker said, if they go to towns and they don't have any policies?
Yeah.
Compared to having someone that's thought about it,
Have something in your plan to.
Yeah, in general, I
Hang
guess
your hat on.
if you're looking for, a site, you're looking for soft targets
yeah,
that also have the power of, the other ingredients that you need. And so to not be a soft target,
yeah.
Might help a little bit. And that also, his point was, it's important maybe for some property owners to say, well, if I do play with this, so, the power companies or their agents, I may lose a split or something, and I really don't want to lose a split. So that might influence or impact some people's decision-making.
Enough on solar?
yes.
Let's talk about road width.
Okay, so we'll just go with this idea within the context of the update.
Yeah.
All right, sounds good.
So new roads that are built in the county, currently they're 24 feet wide.
Yeah.
do we want to add 4 feet on each side of that for biking, walking paths or not? That, yeah,
So Kim, what was,
Also, Nick had the proposal of just adding to one side.
or you could just do one side instead of both.
Yeah, for walking, I mean, that works. You don't necessarily want two-way cycle traffic on
On one
side of the
side.
street because you're kind of violating the rules of the road
Right.
and creating conflicts. But if the intent is more to accommodate walking within neighborhoods, that in a rural setting, that's not a bad idea.
It'd be mainly in a subdivision, and yes, it's gonna add what, 1/3 of the cost of blacktop and road construction because it's 8 feet wider.
Yeah.
And then do both sides.
And then it depends on, kind of an assessment of traffic volume.
Like I said, it's just gonna be the feeder road. I mean, there's
Right.
main roads
So you
through.
might, and I've seen, Kim forwarded me out the discussion, so she kind of clued me in that I'd be asked about this. So I think the key would be to figure out what type of road really warrants this treatment.
so what was the comment I came up with last meeting? About the bike paths? Do you remember? Yeah.
Minutes, isn't it?
I don't know if it was.
Neil suggested that we focus for through roads, but not for dead end roads.
Okay, that's what it was. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I'm further thinking about that since that time. It seems like where we really want to have these bike lanes is on any road that connects highway that has a bike lane that can connect to the bike path, like Ridge, as an example. But only that area between BB and the bike paths. Because there's bikes going up and down BB, and they probably want to get to the bike path sometime, or a lot of people would.
You would think at least.
But
Yeah.
You would think at least.
Yeah, that's, it makes sense to kind of think about this where people have a destination to actually walk to or bike to. Park, the park in a neighborhood is another one. If this is close to a, shop near BB, workplace to eat, those are logical. If it connects to something in the village where there's a facility that you could kind of link up with, that would make sense. So, a couple of thoughts that are spinning in my head. One of them is that, the subdivision ordinance could kind of specify criteria where these things would be considered. And it doesn't necessarily neatly fit with kind of the off-the-shelf arterial collector language that's in the subdivision ordinance right now.
Yeah.
Literally, that was just taken from some model and dropped into your ordinance. It was not really thought through how it fit in a rural setting. So that could almost be cleaned up or scrapped or whatever. But so that my first thought is, where is, for new subdivisions, what are the criteria that we would use to say, yeah, this is going to be where we're going to ask for these things. And then the second thought is what we don't want to do, and this is my bias coming through, is saying, oh, well, all I have to do is create a neighborhood of cul-de-sacs, and then I can avoid any of this stuff. Because, so you don't necessarily have a strong hand right now in your subdivision ordinance that says no cul-de-sacs unless, topography warrants or blah, blah, blah. So you would almost want to pair something like this with a little bit a stick saying, no, you're not going to get away with this with just a cul-de-sac subdivision. Because of the, different connectivity, snow plowing, other reasons why you don't.
Emergency services.
Yeah, and it kind of defeats the purpose, right? If you're trying to promote walking, I reached the end of the cul-de-sac, I guess I turn around. you know, of the whole point. So that's my second thought. And my third one is that as we're thinking about the future land use map and the comp plan, you know, we may have an opportunity to expand its purpose a little bit, particularly where we have town subdivisions close to village subdivisions, and identifying, you know, what are the key roads where we might want to have connections between village and town division and subdivisions, and maybe bike facilities would follow those, or walking paths. I stepped into something there.
Yeah, I lost that battle.
Oh, okay.
Can't connect town roads to village roads.
They don't want that?
We don't want it.
No one wants it? Oh, I see. You lost the battle among these folks and among the, okay. Well, way to fight for it.
I thought it was great for emergency services.
Yeah. Well, one community.
You mentioned earlier about you don't want bicycles on one side. I mean, basically going back and forth. But if you go in the village and look at some of those up by the school and that, and you know, they're, I don't know how wide they are, probably good 6, 8 feet wide, the walking paths, and then the bikes go both directions. And that way they get like a pickup with the snowplow on them.
But they're off road, aren't they?
Yes, that would be the key. So if you wanted to do that,
Well, yeah, they're off the road, but it's like with the bikes,
close.
right where the sidewalk would be, instead of a sidewalk, that's what they have.
Yeah.
Right, I completely get it.
And those work, I mean, bikes, I see them all the time on those.
Yeah, and so that is another option, right?
I
But
mean,
then
that's
you,
what I
but
would probably
especially
go that route
with
versus-
ditches, you start to get a wide right of way. And I think
Yeah.
the town engineer said, and this is true, you'd almost be looking at like an 80-foot wide right of way if you wanted to do, you know, 24 feet of pavement, and then maybe you put the ditch in between, and then you put the bike path out on the outside of the
At
ditch.
8 foot.
I think the idea was more, what I heard was to have it be part of the roadway so that the plows could catch it at the same time they
Yeah,
plow the roads,
yeah,
and you don't have
yeah.
to go in and plow another.
I think that probably makes sense in a rural setting. The other thing I would wonder about, and we can involve the town engineer, and I think you had a comment, Kim, about this in one of the emails, is you don't want to necessarily, again, defeat the purpose. You want to make it safer to walk, but if you're going to create a big, much wider pavement, you might be encouraging people to drive faster. So, you know, you got to
That'll make a difference.
balance those.
You got a narrow path.
You know, but then the question is, well, maybe in those situations you have 2 11-foot lanes instead of 12, because you do have extra pavement, you know, on either side. So it may be a little bit of a engineering compromise that could be worked in those situations. And then you're not paying for 8 more feet of road, you're paying for 6 or
Yeah.
something. But you would still stripe 4 on either side, which you're right, Chris, that's
Yeah.
sort of the minimum recommended.
Right. And then are we going, if you do widen it, do you get pushback from the developer? Well, how am I going to pay for this? You're mandating me doing 6 or 8 more feet of blacktop.
Yeah, I would have, well, anyway, I don't have a ton of sympathy, because if they develop in the village or city, they've got curb and gutter, sidewalk on both sides of the street trees. Your improvement
But they
requirements
have
are pretty
probably have
modest.
higher density.
That's true, to make up for
You
that.
do have higher density.
And I think that what he said earlier about having specific criteria that you use to evaluate, you know, so that it's not you're just like you're flat out saying you're going to do all the roads wider. You're going to say, you know, this.
It's got to be a through street.
Well,
That's-
and whatever, I mean, he might have a lot more into it than that, so that you were evaluating a lot of different things, and it made sense, you know, and it's gonna make it a nicer neighborhood, and, you know, it's gonna make it more marketable.
Yeah, and they can
all those things.
market, you know, walkability, and maybe, and, you know, there's other places, rural neighborhoods, where they're actually building path networks. And maybe, you know, again, if they want to do that, they would get relief from this, because people are getting around it, you know.
Resop did that in his first phase. It's got that path off of the roadway quite a ways that is a walking path, and it's just gravel.
Yeah, sure. So that's definitely an, you know.
And if he
an
can
option.
if we can continue that through the next phase 2 and phase 3, whatever, you wouldn't need
Right.
Wouldn't need it on the roadway then.
Agreed. Yeah, well, certainly, it's timely thinking because obviously over the last 18 months now, people have been walking around a lot.
Right. So I'm wondering, should we maybe pull out some of the old subdivisions that have been done forever and just take a look at them and say, okay, if we were to do this now, where would you want a bike path or a walking path in this subdivision?
Sure. Because eventually
And-
those roads, are going to need to be resurfaced and that
Well,
might be
well,
timely.
yeah, but then maybe it would allow us to define what the criteria should be as to
Oh.
when you need it.
For other ones. New ones.
Yeah,
I mean, learning from
from our
the
past
past.
mistakes.
Yeah, that would be good. And you guys would be in a better position than me saying, well, this type of street or this specific street could have used something better because a lot of people are walking on it. We occasionally get complaints or.
Yeah, Sandpiper would be an ideal one to have been wider with bike lanes on both sides. Damascus, American Way. But, yeah,
And no one wants to go to the speed bumps, so they all come up on Sandpiper.
so maybe we'll try and get some of those maps together and have us look at it and see if we can come up with a criteria that we could then put in subdivision ordinance
Yeah, yeah. And I
and
think there was,
redo the artillery,
yeah, I just think that's just odd.
redo that
Kind of
somehow.
goofy. It just doesn't fit year 7.
Because I guess I could foresee, like you said, on Ridge Road, if we ever rebuild that to make it wider and maybe put a bike path on it.
There's a lot of bikes on Ridge.
From
Nora Road, Ridge Road,
Bylaws.
yeah.
There's some other benefits that might be, occasionally, on-street parking for a party or something like that. It's easier to do that when you have a little bit of pull off. Like obviously it takes away for that period of time,
The walking
The
or
walking,
biking
right.
use of it, but okay. Anybody want to talk about it anymore? Motion by Mule, is there a second?
What you're looking for?
Second by Troy, it's non-debatable, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Thank you. It goes as late as I thought it was going to.